Hi everybody, I've got another big chunky monkey covered in lace, some real pretty fabric. Look at all that yumminess. Big huge fat doily on the front cover. Love those doilies. Let's see, this puppy measures 5. Now I'm just measuring the hard part by 7. If you measure the fabric, it goes to about 8.5. But you know, who's counting? And the spine is 2 inches. Now, a real pretty vintage lady here, and some blue paper that has a damask pattern to it. And then I stitched in a light brown. This is seam binding with a little rose. Some of my favorite cloth. I don't know why I like this cloth. I just do. It's just soft. And it's got a lace closure. The lace that matches what went around the edge. I put the lace in between the inside cover and the outside cover. So it's in between there. We have a fabric pocket here with 2 pretty vintage ladies and some seam binding. And I stuck a tag in there. A little angel. Over here is, this is stitched. Look, I think it is a light camel tannish color. Some new papers that I've made. Over here is a pretty floral, and this has been embossed, and then I came over it with some white paint. Little piece of seam binding, and part of a doily, and one of those little patches I like to make. And this is a letter card. Look at that. It's so cool. Every time I think of, you don't know what you're going to get with a coffee stain, and I think of Forrest Gump. Life is like a box of chocolates. Because it's the same thing. Over here's a little tab with a little piece of a book page. It says March 1955. And again, I let things hang over the edge in this book. And stitched around it. And just left my stitching to show. Here's a pocket with some seam binding, part of a doily, pretty lady, and a little stamped image that I sewed around. It's got this card inside. And I let the fabric from the other side hang over. It's got some stitching on it, a little butterfly, and that's the stitching from the other side of that. Good ephemera in here. Lots of places to journal, of course. This is some cream-colored burlap, and I just stuck that image over it. Another vintage lady. Now, these are available in my Etsy shop. I did some new graphics, and I wanted to use them in one of my books. And this is one of those old book pages, and then I came over it with another sheet of paper and put images on it. And it's, now I chose to, it prints off just like you see it, but I chose to stitch around the white edge. And over here, this is also available in the Etsy shop. And it's got a postcard, and I stitched around the postcard. Nice texture. Another little collage, a little chair. Collages do not have to make sense. They just have to look good together. You can make a collage out of anything that you want. Here's part of a dressmaker's tag. Piece of ephemera back here, and this is, of course, is a pocket with a lady and some fabric, part of a doily. Lots of collages. And again, I let the fabrics hang over from both sides. That's from the other side, and that's from this side. That's an old vintage image of a hair comb. I think that's what they're called. Yeah, hair comb with the part of a curtain back here that's been heavily coffee stained. Another collage over here with a little envelope and a vintage lady and some roses. Over here's a tuck spot with a card for journaling. And then this folds out. And that's a piece of embroidered fabric I cut off of probably a napkin or something. And it's got a card on the inside, and this has got a recipe on the back for a snowman cake. And this is from a 1971 General Mills. I found it at an estate sale. They're like little cards, and they're organized, and it's a big, huge box. So I just put a place for journaling over the top. You may want to make you a snowman cake in the middle of summer so you feel cool. I know it's going to be hot this year. And behind it is another little collage with some fabrics and a vintage girl with her kitty cat. And on the front cover, it's decorated with two ladies, part of a doily, a little bee. Book page, some of that light brown paper, and a little image of some silk. Over here is another part of a book page with a little piece of lace. Another part of a book page over here. More stitching. And over here's a pocket with a collage on it. It's got part of a curtain. It's got some lace. She's sitting there, and I couldn't tell. The image is small. I couldn't tell if it was yarn or she was sewing. But anyway, I found this little ad in that vintage book that I have. It says home sewing. Make money in your spare time. So I stuck that over because I thought it went together. And then this is a buttons vintage piece of ephemera, and I stuck some coffee dyed papers in there. This pocket has also been embossed. It's got a silk flower and a stamped image. More book page, a little tag here. More fabric, another hair comb. Over here is more of that curtain. And a vintage lady and a fabric ruffle and a coupon. And here's another piece of ephemera, and I just attached a couple of images on it. I let the fabric again hang over from the other side, and I stitched a leaf pattern on it. There's some more of those images that are available in my Etsy shop. It's sewed around the postcard. Over here is a book page pocket, and it's got a little envelope. Now it doesn't open; it's glued down. Got some cheesecloth, part of a doily, fabric, a vintage button, and back here you've got a little place to journal. With I put it over a piece of ephemera and a vintage lady there. And a little booklet. I think I got this from Dreams, Etc., if I'm not mistaken. This is a little book page pocket. Look at this. Is this not hysterical? Can you imagine how uncomfortable that was? My word. And it looks, I don't know, it's got a little tiny wheel in the front and the big wheels, and he's pedaling away. Whew, exhausting. And I put a little patch over it and some fabric there. And over here, some vintage ladies crossing the street. And this is stitching from the other side. And then I got a postcard image up here. And this is a little dress ticket with a vintage man with a very tall hat on. And this tab just holds this coffee dyed paper in place. It's sari silk up there that's been stitched on. I can't believe they actually used to walk around. That hat is like twice as big as his head. This is also available in the Etsy shop. And I just, so, you know, it comes as you see it, but I stitched around the edge, and then I stitched around the inside part. Piece of ephemera with lots of stitching. I went round and round and round and round and round with the stitching. I did that even more in the next journal I'll show you. I really like the look. More stitching on the edge there. Here's a burlap pocket, little angel, and it's an invoice for the background. So I put sale price, no refunds, no exchanges. And I put a little booklet inside with all different kinds of papers for writing. These things are really great to use. Over here is a vintage lady with part of a curtain here. It says Beyond Measure. Another piece of fabric with a vintage lady that I sewed around her. And I just let that come on through. And on this side, I put a part of a doily. More stitching. Part of a old book page. And that's the end of the second signature. This is the beginning of the third. This has got an old, what do they call these things? Metropolitan Opera playlist? Is that what they used to call them? And it's signed by all the people, but it's just a piece of ephemera. It's not the real thing. I printed it off of my computer. And you got a vintage pocket here that's been embossed, and it's got part of the curtain. It's got a lace doily. It's got some seam binding, a little bit of everything on this one. A ruffle here, a stamped image with two girls, and inside I put some coffee dyed cards. You know I like to see my stuff. I have to fix it. Over here is more stitching. A pretty vintage label for violets. Here's some really soft fabric that I stitched onto this card. Another collage that I just let hang over the edge. And the other side hangs over the edge too. It just adds a little something more and more. Part of a book page, and that's a vintage comb. And this hangs over. And the stitching from the other side. Little flower stitching here for leaf pattern. That's my favorite stitch. I love it. This is one of the new Etsy listings that I have in the shop. It's on the vintage paper. It says February 1955 with the ladies and a postcard again. But I stitched around mine. The stitching is not in the download. But you could do whatever you wanted around it. You know, you could put lace around it or ribbon or nothing. Here's a little collage of part of a doily and some muslin with some lace up here. Another piece of ephemera with the vintage lady and some roses and some lace peeking out from the other side. Over here's a vintage picture with a little ad, little vintage ad. And that's another one I believe I put in my Etsy shop. Over here's a really pretty floral background with a glassine bag. Got part of a doily, that's the flap from the top. And I just put that over it. It's stitched down. Got a part of a doily up here. And two cards to journal on. And that's the lace from the other side that has been stitched. Fabric peeking over. Little vintage lady and part of a business card. Another vintage lady over here with some lace and some muslin. More stitching here. A couple of camels. More stitching over here. And I just let it come on through. But you see how I put something there and I stitched around it. And on the other side, like in the other section, I just left this for you to do if you had something you wanted to put here. And the stitching just adds a little something. Got some sari silk coming down here with a vintage lady and part of a book page. And this edge comes over from the other side. And the tea set. And some script writing there. more of that, you know, I thought I was going to make it free and clear without the dogs barking in either one of these videos, but Oliver and Sammy just said hello. They can't stand it. They got to get their hams. They got to get in the act. Got some stitching here. Over here's a little collage with the vintage paper. It's the real thing. I mean, I didn't print it off. It came out of that vintage book I got at that estate sale. It's got a little fabric. And on the back we have a pocket that matches the pocket on the front with the sari silk and the heavy stitching. And a little lady writing her letters for the day. And inside I put a large card. And it's got fluffies at the top. And there's the back again. That delightful fabric. It's real lacy. And there's the spine. And there's the front. I want to thank y'all for being here with me today. And hopefully I'll get one more done before Friday. It could happen. Thanks, y'all. Bye-bye.